that you are with us this evening, tuning in from the comfort of your own homes throughout San Antonio and the world. It's been a tough year. It's hard to imagine that we have just passed the 1-year mark since the world shut down. It was in March of last year that we closed the Gangane preschool and the Chabad Hebrew school. And for the first time in 35 years, we did not have services on Shabbat or Passover. Not to be deterred, Chabad quickly adapted to Zoom, providing classes and programming online, a drive-through Lag BaOmer carnival, private visits to the IBC playground, restructuring Camp Gan Israel and Gangane preschool with the new COVID guidelines. Through it all, Chabad was determined to be there and extend a helping hand in innovative and creative ways. So, welcome again to our virtual L'Chaim celebration, and please sit back and relax and enjoy a special video of Chabad in action, a COVID year in review.
Some people wonder, others may say, whenever adversity passes their way, let me run, let me hide, oh, I must close my eyes. By the time that they're open, it just might fade away. But not you, dear friends, you know just what to do. When faced with a challenge, you always come through, and you've painted a smile on the face of a child, helping to make sure that his dreams come true. There's a small piece of heaven in everyone's heart, a glorious gift from above. It will sparkle and shine if we each do our part to reach out and touch it with love. So we thank you tonight for doing your share, for the gift of bright sunshine and fresh country air. But although that's a fact, you have done much more than that. You've shown these dear children just how much you care. There's a small piece of heaven in everyone's heart, a glorious gift from above. It will sparkle and shine if we each do our part to reach out and touch it with love. Oh, there's a small piece of heaven in everyone's heart, a glorious gift from above. It will sparkle and shine if we each do our part to reach out and touch it with love.
There's a small piece of heaven.
Come on, sing it.
In everyone's heart, a glorious gift from above. It will sparkle and shine if we each do our part to reach out and touch it with love.
Oh, with love, with love. There's a small piece of heaven in everyone's heart, a glorious gift from above.
It will sparkle and shine if we each do our part.
We must do our part.
To reach out and touch it with
Love, with love. There's a small piece of heaven in everyone's heart, a glorious gift from above. and touch it only with love.
Wow, that was beautiful. Thank you so much, Rabbi Teldon, for a wonderful job, as always, in producing our events videos. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the rabbis and rebbitzins of Chabad, my colleagues, Rabbi Yossi and Malki Maris, Rabbi Levi and Rachel Teldon, Rabbi Levi and Nomi Grossbaum, Rabbi Tal and Chava Shaul, and Rabbi Eli and Sivia Block, for giving their all, bringing encouragement, comfort, and hope to our community during this challenging year. And a special thanks to Rabbi Maris for taking on the important role of interviewing our guest speaker, Edith Eger, later on this evening. Stay tuned. Tonight, we express our profound appreciation to our L'Chaim donors, Estella Avery and HEB. Our diamond donors, Stan and Marcel Schnitzer, and our platinum donors, the Bar Yadin Family Foundation, Steve and Elaine Cohen, Lenny and Raquel Holtzman, IBC Bank, David and Arlene Starr, and Lee and Mia Cohen. And I'd like to take this opportunity to wish Mia a happy birthday. It's her birthday today, so wherever you are watching from, Mia, happy birthday. May this year be a wonderful, healthy, and fulfilling year. I would like also to express our appreciation to all our friends throughout the community who supported Chabad financially throughout the past year. It is your generosity that has enabled Chabad to be there for our community. Your names appear in our beautiful dinner journal that you will receive in the mail, as well as online at our event website, www.chabadsa.com/l'chaim, LCHAIM. I'd like to give a special thanks to Gal Schweike and the amazing team at Schweike Media for doing such a beautiful job with our dinner journal and invitation postcard. I am very proud and grateful to announce some very special dedications this evening. Many of you have seen and have had their children play and enjoy our brand new state-of-the-art incredible playground. This playground would not have been possible without the generous help from some very special people and organizations. The playground will be named the IBC Children's Playground, and we thank Mr. Dennis Nixon and IBC Bank for this very generous naming dedication. A heartfelt thank you to HEB for dedicating the double-towered treehouse, and to Eric and Ada Schaefer and family for dedicating the parkour obstacle course, to Tyler and Valerie Fuller and Rena Fuller for dedicating our swing set, and to Rick and Elizabeth Rosenblum for dedicating the toddler playscape area. There were many others that contributed as well, and the children of San Antonio, thank you all. All contributions will be recognized in a specially designated area of the playground, and there will be, God willing, a community-wide dedication celebration, hopefully, in August or September, COVID permitting. Stay tuned. And now it is time for a little joy in music from our world-renowned music sensation, Eli Marcus. Sit back and relax and enjoy the music.
Hello, San Antonio. My name is Eli Marcus. It's such a pleasure to be here with you, together with everyone from the Chabad Center for Jewish Life and Learning, celebrating the annual L'Chaim event, 36 years, 2 times Chai, coming up to the holiday of Pesach, the holiday celebrating our exodus from Egypt, breaking the bonds of slavery. Our Holy Torah tells us Simcha poidetz geder, that joy can break all boundaries. And of course, music brings us lots of joy. So sing with us. Let's break those bonds. Here we go. Oh, la da da, my da da da. Oh, la da da, my da da da. La da da, my da da da. Did-da, yada, ma, yala, did-da. Did-da, ila, 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 ma, did-da, ila, ila, did-da. Did-da, ila, ila, ma, ila, ila, did-da. Did-da, ila, ma, did-da, ila, ila, did-da. Did-da, ila, ila, ma, ila, ila, did-da. Did-da, ila, did-da, ila, ila. Did-da, ila, did-da, ila, ila. Did-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-la-la, did-da-da, ma, did-da, oh yo yo yo, did-da-da, did-da-da-la-la, did-da-da, did-da-da, did-da-da-la-la, did-da, did-da-da, did-da-da-la-la, did-da-da, ma, did-da, did-da-da-la-la, la-la, ma, did-da-la-la, did-da. Did-da, la-la, la-la, did-da. Did-da, la-la, ma, did-da, did-da. Did-da, la-la, ma, la-la, did-da. Oh, did-da, did-da, la-la. Oh, did-da, did-da, la-la. Did-da, la-da, did-da, la-la. Did-da, la, ma, la-la, did-da. Oh, yo, yo, yo. Did-da, did-da, la-la. Oh yeah, yeah, la da da, did it in Layla. Did it oh, la da da, did it in Layla. Did it I, la my Layla, did it down. Uforatsto, yom over chemo. Sophie Novo Negbo. Uforatsto, yom over chemo. Sophie Novo Negbo. Ayo, uforatsto, yom over chemo. Ayo, uforatsto, Sophie Novo Negbo. Ayo, uforatsto, yom over chemo. Ayo, uforatsto, Sophie Novo Negbo. Ahai, oh hoy. You uforatsto, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo. Ayo, uforatsto, yoma, vakimo, ayo, uforatsto, sofino, bonegbo, ayo, uforatsto, yoma, vakimo. Ayo, uforatsto, sofino, bonegbo. Ahai, oh hoy, ayo, uforatsto, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo, yoma, vakimo, sofino, bonegbo. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the program. We'll see you a little later.
I grew up in a small town, Kyle, Texas, right between San Antonio and Austin, and went to public schools, educated in public schools, and did my undergraduate degree at Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas, and also stayed in Texas for my MBA, and had the amazing opportunity to do the executive education program at Harvard Business School. I came to HEB in 2006, and I moved to San Antonio, where I found an amazing community, a community focused on helping others. My role at HEB, I oversee our community relations and charitable giving, also media relations, and state government relations. Our job is to figure out what is needed in our community. I remember coming to San Antonio, and one of the first people I met was Rabbi Chaim Block. And he was such a natural educator and teacher that he really allowed me to explore and ask questions and to learn about the Jewish community. I've been to Chabad several times and have been very welcomed. And I feel like what Chabad does in particular really democratizes faith and unity and bringing people together from all trains of thought, and really does a great job at educating our community about the Jewish faith. And that's something that has really made a strong impression on me, is the commitment from the Jewish community to be a people of action and a community of action. I see myself in a lot of the teachings, and it's something that is really, I feel, connected with in terms of the passion for curiosity and asking questions, and teaching children to ask questions and to not be afraid. HEB is very committed to diversity and inclusion, and Hanukkah on the River is such a very special event to help our community understand and celebrate light, just as the Jewish community does, and to have a deeper understanding of the meaning of Hanukkah and bringing light into the world, and the importance of that is what's important to HEB, and how our values align with the values of the Jewish community. I am proud that the first time that I've accepted a personal invitation to be honored is with this community and with these people, both here in live in the audience and also those watching from home, that I cannot express my deepest gratitude and respect for the Jewish community, and I'm so proud to be here with everybody today.
In just 1 week from today, well, 1 week and a few days, the Jewish people the world over will gather in their homes to celebrate Passover, the festival of our liberation from slavery in Egypt. In the Haggadah, the prayer book that is used at the Seder, it states, B'chol Dor L'Dor, Chayav Adam lirot et atzmo Ki'ilu hu yatsa mimitzrayim. In every generation, we must see ourselves as having been liberated from Egypt. It's a nice slogan, but what does it really mean? We are living in the USA in 2021, far removed from ancient Egypt. Hasidic thought explains that every person has his own personal Egypt. Mitzrayim, which is the Hebrew for Egypt, also means limitations, boundaries, and constraints. We each have our self-imposed limitations that we struggle with. This statement is encouraging us to personalize the experience of the holiday, for it is from Passover that we derive the strength to focus on our own personal constraints and effect our own liberation from our personal Egypts, to push our envelopes and to think out of the box. In case you were concerned that I might have forgotten about our honoree, this is a wonderful segue to this year's Distinguished Community Service Award recipient, Dya Campos. Dya was attracted to HEB because of HEB's focus on helping and advocating for the communities in which it does business in. Dya has brought her keen intellect and sensitive heart to to join forces with a company that shares her values to push the envelope and scale new heights in the world of community service, making a real difference in the lives of ordinary people each day. Dya is a very caring and compassionate person and is a dear friend of the Jewish community. She has spearheaded HEB's long-standing support of Hanukkah on the River, as well as HEB's recent dedication of the double-towered treehouse at the IBC Children's Playground. Ladies and gentlemen watching around the world, please join me in welcoming Dya to the podium to accept the 2021 Distinguished Community Service Award. So Dya, this is your award. I'm not going to give it to you because of the COVID guidelines and restrictions, but I'd like to call Rivki to please come up and present this with me to you. This one's yours. So this is, guess. Yes, this is a Seder plate. This is a Seder plate from a very famous artist in Jerusalem with a Jerusalem motif, and it comes along with these little cups that you put on the Seder plate for the various items that one places on the Seder plate on Passover. And this dedication reads, and I'll put this down and I'll let Rivki read this dedication.
Distinguished Community Service Award presented to Dya Campos with our heartfelt appreciation for your friendship and support. Chabad Center for Jewish Life and Learning, 36th Annual Gala, Nisan 4-5781, March 17th, 2021. Congratulations, Dya.
Thank you.
So we'll just put this here. Okay.
I guess I get to say a few words, no?
Yes.
This is amazing. It's great to be here with my mishpacha, and what a fabulous award. I now have to return the Seder plate that I just ordered because I am hosting my first Seder with my COVID pod next week, and so very much appreciated. It is absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much. You know, Rabbi Block called me earlier today, and I was in the middle of some legislative hearings at the Texas legislature in Austin, and I told him, I said, you're calling me just at the right time. I was just thinking about Genesis, how God creates order and man creates chaos. It's kind of in the middle of that. And so I am so blessed to be here today with all of my friends from the Jewish community, both here in person and online. And I thought I'd share a little bit, since the most frequently asked question that we receive at HEB is, you know, how did you do COVID? How did you get through that? How did you do this freeze? And we don't talk a lot about that, but a lot of it aligns with, at HEB, our decision making, and personally in my life, our decision making aligns with, you know, very foundational Jewish principles. And one of those being tikkun olam, and this act of healing a fractured world. And that's how we approach problem solving at HEB. I remember that at HEB we started our Emergency Operations Center for COVID on March 4th. On March 10th was a Tuesday. We had a meeting with the governor. On March 12th was my last normal dinner in a restaurant, which happened to be with Robbie Greenbloom and friends. And on March 13th, the governor called the state of emergency, and the state was shut down. And I was looking and reflecting through my messages earlier, and I noticed that on March 22nd, I had a message from Rabbi Block asking me, how are you? How are you doing? I'm thinking about HEB and thinking about what everybody's going through. And I was looking back on that message and realized I didn't reply to you until May 5th. And that just shows the intensity of what we were going through at the time. But the way that we make decisions is based on how can we do the best for our community? How can we mend a fractured world? And that is something that I believe that I have learned through my relationship with Chabad and through my Jewish family. And also most recently during the freeze in Texas, a really catastrophic event for our community. I really leaned into the concept of Darkei Shalom, of helping strangers and being kind to strangers. And that is really a foundational principle at HEB and how I want to be in my life personally and my friends that surround me. So I'm very grateful for Chabad and for Rabbi Chaim and Rivki Block, who have invited me into your home for Shabbat dinner, and we hope to have many more in the future. But on behalf of myself, I'm extremely grateful, and on behalf of HEB as well. We appreciate you and everything that you do in our community.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dya. Many, many years of continued success and growth and fulfillment. And now another special medley from our guest soloist, Eli Marcus.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to take a musical journey through some of our favorite Seder night songs. If you know it, sing along, clap along, dance along. Here we go. Kadesh urchatz karpas yachatz magid rochza moitzi matzo moror koirech shulchan noirech zofun beirach hallel nirtzon kadesh urchatz karpas yachatz magid rochza moitzi matzo moror koirech shulchan noirech zofun beirach hallel nirtzon. Ma nishtana halayla hazeh mikol halaylos. And as we say in Yiddish, was is anders die Nacht von Pesach, von alle Nacht, von a ganz Jahr. Shebechol halaylo einanu matpilin afilu pa'am echas, afilu pa'am echas. הלילה הזה, שתי פעמים. הלילה הזה, שתי פעמים. שבכל הלילות אנו אוכלים חמץ ומצה, חמץ ומצה. הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. הלילה הזה, כולו מצה. Of course, the answer to the question is עבדים היינו לפרעה במצרים, עבדים היינו לפרעה במצרים, עבדים היינו לפרעה במצרים. והיא שימדה לאבותינו ולנו, והיא שימדה לאבותינו ולנו, שלא אחד בלבד עמד
עמד עלינו לחלוסינו, שלא אחד בלבד עמד עלינו לחלוסינו, אלא שבכל דבר עומדים עלינו לחלוסינו, אלא שבכל דבר עומדים עלינו לחלוסינו, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו מידם, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, מצילנו מידם, והקדוש ברוך הוא מצילנו, מצילנו מידם. אילו הוציאנו ממצרים, הוציאנו ממצרים דיינו, אילו הוציאנו ממצרים, הוציאנו ממצרים דיינו, 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 דיינו. 12 are the tribes of Israel, 11 are the stars in Yosef's dream, 10 are the Aseres Adim Rus, 9 are the months before a baby's born, and 8 are the days of the bris, and 7 are the days of the week, and 6 are the books of the Mishnah, 5 are the books of the Torah, 4 are the mothers, and 3 are the fathers, and 2 are the luchos that Moshe brought. One is Hashem, one is Hashem, one is Hashem, on the heaven and the earth.
I was born in Galveston, Texas, but my family was living in Bay City, Texas. There were about 20 Jewish families there. My parents met with some of the Jewish families and they asked them, you know, how do you celebrate Shabbat? And they said that they played poker and went to football games. My parents said, well, we're going to make you a deal. You'll come to our house and we'll have a just short service that my mother, Helen, would fix a nice Shabbat dinner. That was the atmosphere that I was born into. When my oldest sister was starting to have a social life, she was a teenager, we moved to Houston. My sisters and I were active in BBYO and synagogue life. And while I was in high school, I met my husband, and so we were high school sweethearts. We married in college and had our first 2 children. We moved to San Antonio in 1973 and we joined Agudas, and I actually taught in the preschool and religious school for a number of years. A few years later, I went to work in the kindergarten at the Jonathan Netanyahu Academy, and I taught many of the block girls while I was there. In about 1995, they offered me a full-time position as the Director of Admissions and Programming, and that started an amazing phase of my life. 8 years ago, I joined the Chabad team, and it was really like coming home. Everyone here is very warm and embracing, makes time for everyone. When you speak to the rabbis, the rebbetzins, it's with their full attention, and it makes you feel very important. And I'm not talking just about me, but I'm talking about everyone who walks through the door. It is truly a gift to come to work here every day. I am sandwiched between generations of magnificent people, from my own parents who nurtured and guided me, to my husband, who is the real rock star in the family. He is the love of my life, and He is the life of the party. To my wonderful children and my fantastic grandchildren, Isley and Benji and Emma and Jacob and Amelia and Henry are the lights of our lives who inspire and motivate me every day. To see them involved in Jewish life, we make challah together on Zoom. This is the really important thing in life. I just want to say a little something about this honor. I feel very undeserving because I feel that I have gotten so much more than I could ever possibly have given. When I think about what Chabad does now, how they send young families into communities to establish a Jewish community and to help people reconnect with their Judaism, that was actually the life I was born into. My parents were doing it when they didn't even know they were doing it. I simply don't think there's a better gift you can leave the world than to know that you were part of that process for so many families.
Wow, beautiful. Nancy's parents were running a Chabad house before any of us were. How amazing. Well, Nancy, you are one of the most positive-oriented people one could hope to meet. Your can-do, reassuring demeanor has a calming effect on countless anxious callers and others who are constantly reaching out to Chabad for encouragement and support. Your genuine, kind, and caring nature has endeared you to all of us here at Chabad and to whomever who has had the good fortune to interact with you. As you saw in the video, Nancy's pride of her Jewish heritage and her commitment to Jewish education and to raising a Jewish family is inspiring. Nancy was raised in a family where reaching out to others and ensuring the continuity of our traditions is in her DNA and comes to her naturally. This makes her truly deserving of the Dor L'Dor Award, which celebrates the transmission of our traditions, midor l'dor, from generation to generation. I would like to acknowledge Nancy's husband, Mark, who, as we all know now, was her high school sweetheart and soulmate, who has been so totally supportive of everything Nancy has done for our community. And so, Mark, this is for you too. Please join Nancy at the stage to accept the 2021 Dor L'Dor Award. Rifki, please join us.
Thank you for those beautiful words, Rabbi.
You're not, no, don't start yet. Rifki will, first let's come together for a little, you put on your mask. Okay.
Add to your collection, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll just, well, first, let's do it this way. Okay. All right. And now, Rifki will read the inscription.
Okay. Dor L'Dor Award, presented to Nancy Gold. With our heartfelt appreciation for your many years of dedicated service and friendship, Chabad Center for Jewish Life and Learning, 36th Annual Gala, Nisan 4, 5781, March 17th, 2021. Mazel Tov.
Thank you for the beautiful words. I want to thank the entire Chabad community for this most meaningful and much appreciated Dor L'Dor Award. 9 years ago, within a short period of time, our son announced that they were expecting twins, and the Jewish Day School announced the school where I had worked for 25 years was going to become a charter school. I looked at this as a sign that it was time to retire. Shortly thereafter, Rabbi Maris walked into my office and announced that he and Rabbi Block had other plans for me, and thus began my wonderful journey at the Chabad Center. It is an honor and a privilege to be involved with the Chabad rabbis and Robbinsons who work with such dedication, energy, and creativity to provide educational, social, and spiritual programs that engage and inspire so many diverse ages and groups in the San Antonio Jewish community. I am proud to be part of the Chabad family for many reasons, but one that is incredibly special to me. Chabad so closely aligns with my own upbringing and the concept of Judaism done joyfully. My parents nurtured in my sisters and me the spirit of not just living Jewishly, but loving to live Jewishly. Every holiday was a multi-generational celebration. Families, friends, never strangers, first-time guests, always welcome for delicious meals and to share our family's beautiful traditions. Mark and I have embraced this philosophy in raising our own family. It brings us great joy and overwhelming pride to see this tradition passing from generation to generation and thriving in the homes of our wonderful children, Jason and Sherry, Julie, Jeremy and Randy, Jessica and Jonathan, and our fabulous grandchildren, Isley, Benji, Emma, Jacob, Amelia, and Henry. May Jewish life flourish in San Antonio and in all Jewish communities throughout the world. Thank you so very much.
I just want to say I want to thank the rabbi for acknowledging me, but I have to tell you I received my award September 7th, 1963 when I met her. And ever since then, I've been the luckiest man in the world. Thank you.
And now back to Eli Marcus, and then straight to our guest, Edith Eger and Rabbi Maris.
Thank you again. One more song for you. Global peace, unity, and harmony. This is what we're all praying for and hoping for. So sing along with us. Sometimes I lay under the moon, I thank God I'm breathing, and I pray don't take me soon, 'cause I am here for a reason. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play. And one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day, one day this all will change. Treat people the same. Stop with the violence, down with the hate. One day we'll all be free and proud to be under the same sun, singing songs of freedom. Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down. So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say, yeah, that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play. One day, 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 one day.
am not a victim. It's not my identity.
Dr. Edith Eva Eger is a pioneer in the field of psychology, teaching people how to use their pain to help them heal.
We have that possibility within us that we can really find a meaning in suffering.
Born into a Hungarian Jewish family in 1927, Edith Eger's father, Louis, was a tailor. Her mother, Alona, was a homemaker and civil servant. She had two older sisters, Clara, a violin prodigy, and Magda, a noted beauty. At the age of 5, Edith began studying ballet, then took up gymnastics. She even trained for the Olympics. The family was living a life full of hope for the future. At 16, Edith's world tragically changed in an instant. Nazi soldiers raided her home, eventually sending the family on a cattle train to Auschwitz. Edith's sister Clara, studying in Budapest, was not captured. Upon arrival at the death camp, Edith's parents were immediately sent to the gas chamber. She never saw them again. Edith and Magda endured grueling conditions while imprisoned at Auschwitz. Fleeing from Allied forces, the Nazis pushed the sisters and thousands of others to the brink of death on a march over 35 miles. On May 4th, 1945, their liberation came when they were rescued by American troops. Later, Edith and Magda miraculously reunited with their sister Clara. By 1949, Edith married. She and her husband, Bella, migrated to the United States, barely speaking English. Together, they raised their 3 children. Through sheer tenacity and will, she earned her college degree, a master's, and ultimately her PhD, and became a world-renowned psychologist. At 91, she is still, to this day, working with trauma survivors.
It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Eger to San Antonio via Zoom. Shalom.
Shalom.
It's so nice to meet you. And I have to tell you that in preparing for this interview, I took the time to read both of your books. And I was so touched and moved and inspired by your books, and more than the story, which is so powerful, your personality, your positivity, your ability to see good in what was such a terrible situation. So I want to introduce you a little bit to our audience and tell them a little bit about the fact that you are a Holocaust survivor. You have a proud, beautiful mishpacha, a beautiful family, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, a New York Times best-selling author of 2 books, The Choice and The Gifts. You've been on all the very famous talk shows. Now you get to talk to me. That's almost as famous as Larry King or Oprah. And a clinical practice in psychology for many, many decades, a consultant to the U.S. Navy and military specializing in PTSD and anxiety, and so much more. So it's really a pleasure, and I hope that throughout the next little while, we will be able to discuss a little bit about your story and your message, and a message that is so important today for young and old alike to listen to. I guess we can start with your youth.
Yes.
As we start the story of your youth growing up in Košice, I believe it's pronounced?
Yes.
Hungary?
I was born in Košice and became Kasha, Hungary. And when I met Elie Wiesel, we thought that we were on the same transport going to Auschwitz, May 1944. I think if you can maybe find out, I would like to know myself. And I grew up in a very talented family. My parents had two beautiful girls, Magda, and Magda was the pretty one, and Clara was the child prodigy in violin, and my parents really wanted a son, and they got me. So I don't know how you are and how many children you have, but I can tell you most of the rabbis I talk to are having gray hair, and you don't. You don't. So I'm talking the baby rabbi here. You're the young one, and I know that you have your calling, and I have my calling.
Absolutely.
So I'm very fortunate, very fortunate. But my mother told me, I'm glad you have brains because you have no looks. I became cross-eyed when I was 3 years old. And so I was painfully shy, and I spent a lot of time alone. So my mother took me to a ballet school. And my ballet master picked me up and told me that we don't know where we are and what's happening in life, but just remember that your ecstasy has to come from inside out. I had no idea what that word meant, but in Auschwitz, I discovered not to wait for anything to come from the outside. That was the gas chamber. I didn't know whether I'm going to be put in a gas chamber. When I was standing 4 o'clock in the morning in the appel, they could put me in a gas chamber any minute. And also, unfortunately, beating and torturing us. When we took a shower, we didn't know whether gas or water is going to come out. And that's why I'm saying that, because right now, many people are telling me that I can't stand being in a limbo. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We are very, very divided now. And I know that it is a difficult thing when people tell you one thing and you find another.
Right.
But I can tell people there are no problems. There are only challenges. There are no crises. There are only transition. And all the joy and all the ecstasy comes from inside out.
Wow, that's such a beautiful concept and such a powerful one. You said I look young. I'll take that as a compliment. I thank God I have 6 children. I have 2 girls and 4 boys. And we recently had our first granddaughter, our first inical, and we're very blessed. So thank you. You know, talking about your youth, one of the themes in your book that is so vivid is your love for dancing. And it comes up in the book so many times. I don't know if on Zoom we can get to see the high kick that you're known for, but can you talk a little bit about how dance played such a central role? And in your book, you tell an incredible story about Dr. Mengele asking you to dance in Auschwitz.
Yeah. He came to the barracks and he wanted to know who were the newcomers and what talents do they bring to Auschwitz. And my friends who saw me dancing when the president came to town, I had my Hungarian little costume with the red boots and doing the Chabad, and they just put me in front of him. And he said, dance for me.
Wow. What was going through your mind?
I'm shaking. I'm shaking. But then I think I better do what I'm told to do. And when I started to dance, I closed my eyes and I pretended that the music was Tchaikovsky and I was dancing the Romeo and Juliet at the Budapest Opera House. In Auschwitz, during the day, I did exactly what I'm told to do, but at night, I was dancing.
That's amazing.
That kept me going. The night was mine. They could not take that away from me. And I imagined myself to hopefully dance at the Budapest Opera House. So I think it's very important for me to tell you that unfortunately we have genocide even as we speak, but never in a history of mankind such a systematic and scientific annihilation of people existed. It's not comparable to anything when 15 highly educated people celebrated in the evening that they can put 30,000 Jews in the oven in one day.
Wow.
And it was the final solution of Eichmann, and I am part of that final solution.
Let me ask you, in the book, you talk so much about the terrible experiences that you had, you know, starting with the Nazis coming into your city and the beginning of going the work camps and Auschwitz and all the terrible and really so much suffering. And yet, at the same time, reading your book and now meeting you in person, you are one of the most positive people I have ever met. How did you find joy? How were you able to find positivity in such a hellhole of Auschwitz?
Well, you know, I had a boyfriend, and he told me that I have beautiful eyes and beautiful hands, and the two of us had a dream that we're going to go to Palestine, and we belong to the Bethar, that we're going to go to Palestine, and we were very militant how we're going to go fighting. And so when I was in Auschwitz, I would go to everyone asking, tell me about my eyes, tell me about my hands, because if I survive today, then tomorrow I'm going to see my boyfriend. So you see, they could not ever murder my spirit. And I was able to come closer and closer to the darkness. And as I did, the closer I became to God.
Wow.
And that God, that loving God, guided me to turn hatred into pity. And I felt sorry for the guards. I felt so sorry for the guard and wearing that uniform and hating me and telling me every day that I'm poison to society, that I'm cancer to society, and the only way I will get out of here as a corpse. And I said to myself, oh yeah? You see, I had my God, my loving God, and my loving God told me to look at life from inside out and not to wait for someone to come and liberate me. I think that's very, very important, that Auschwitz can be an opportunity to discover that Jewish blood that our ancestors carried with them, even though they didn't have it as good as we do. And they had to be on the desert for 40-some years, God knows, and never give up. So that's why I am here. I'm doing my calling, and I couldn't be happier at 93 because I live in a present, and I think young, but not young and foolish. And
Wow.
all you have to do is watch Fiddler on the Roof, and that woman knows that her husband has to feel that he makes all the decisions in the world. And guess who makes the decision? She doesn't have any ego needs. She's not competing. She knows how to transcend and move beyond the me. And that's what we had to do in Auschwitz. We had to form a family of inmates.
That's such an incredible, it's such an incredible and powerful message. You know, the Torah, Jewish tradition, is so full of positivity, as you say, and the history of our people of trying to see the good, even when things may not seem so good. My question for you is, how did the other inmates at Auschwitz, your friends, your sister for that matter, did they share the same positivity? Did you ever talk to them about your frame of mind?
No, because I would have been the traitor. You just had to hate and hate and hate. And I had my God. People asked me, where was God in Auschwitz? I said, God was with me. God didn't kill my parents. People did. They were not born to hate me. They learned it.
Well, that is so powerful.
For me, I had my God with me, and that God taught me how to pray, really pray from the heart and soul, that this is temporary, that I can survive it. I didn't say yes, but I said yes, and it's temporary, and I can survive it.
You know,
so the prayers that you pray, I learned it in Auschwitz.
Yeah. You know,
the closer I came to God, the closer I was able to find hope in hopelessness.
You know, I think you say that your calling is a therapist, but I think you do a very good job preaching about Judaism and hope and faith and prayer as well. So
I do.
Absolutely.
I do. I wouldn't mind being a rabbi. I met a rabbi in New York City many years ago, and she was brilliant. And she said the same things, and I said to myself, it would be so nice if I could also pick up something alongside of the psychology, that I could really celebrate every moment that Jewish people never give up, that we find some hope in hopelessness and darkness. And that's why I'm saying now with the COVID, it's like time out from a football game. And you know what? You can take stock of your family. You can come up, not going back, but a new beginning. That you have some rules in a family, that there is no freedom without responsibility.
Right.
I like to teach children how to possibly pick up their laundry and put it in the basket, and something that is age appropriate. And I think that is very good for the children to be doing the family. I usually talk about a carriage, that you have 6 carriage and you, so you have 8 carriages, and you're doing teamwork, and it has to be age appropriate. I will not tell your 10-year-old child about cognitive dissonance. I would have to look and see how to meet that child where they are emotionally, age-wise. The person who I'm really referring to is Piaget, and he was a wonderful, brilliant psychologist, and talked about the ages and stages of development.
Wow.
So what happened, if you're a child of a survivor, you become the parents to your parents. Because when I came to America, my little girl was 2 years old. She taught me how to speak English. She told me that it's November and I have to buy a turkey. I didn't know turkey. So she bought me a book, Turkey Lurkey, Goosey Lucy. Okay, I didn't know one from the other, but I couldn't afford the turkey. So I work in a factory, and I go to a grocery store, and I'm looking for turkeys, and I know I can't afford one. So I found a little chicken for 29 cents. People tell me, you cannot buy a chicken for 29 cents. I know I did, because I didn't know money, and he took 25 cents and 4 pennies. And I did my choreography, and I came home, and I did the high kick, and I guess, get what? We're gonna have a baby turkey. So you see.
Reverse psychology. See, even before.
And she was so happy. She went back to the daycare center and said, I had a baby turkey. She never knew that we were poor.
That's incredible. You know, you talk about your daughter was your teacher. You know, it's so fascinating that, you know, after the war, you discuss in your book how you went to Czechoslovakia and you met your husband, and eventually you ended up a couple of hours away from us in El Paso, Texas. How did that happen? That seems like so far away from Europe and Czechoslovakia and Auschwitz.
Well, what happened in Auschwitz, yet we never know what's going to happen next. And I stood in line to get my tattoo in December 1944, and they told me that I'm going to the gas chamber and they don't want to waste the ink on me. And on the way to the gas chamber, Magda was in one pile and I was on the other, and I knew I have to have my sister with me because she ate everything the night before, and I saved my bread. I ate that soup, whatever it was. So I knew I had to be, so we had to think very fast. I didn't have time to feel sorry for myself or ask why me. I had to say, what now? And I started to do cartwheels to get the attention of the warden, and we ended up on the top of a train carrying ammunition for the Nazis in a uniform. And so how did I get to El Paso? Because when we came to America in 1949, my late husband's brother lived there. And the climate was very bad for his lungs. So he ended up in a TB hospital. And he had a cousin living in El Paso, Texas. And that's how we ended up in El Paso, Texas. My husband, TB, came back after 43 years, and he died of TB.
I'm so sorry.
So that's how I am. I am now in La Jolla. I call it a paradise. But you know what? When my children were moving to La Jolla, my daughter took me to a side and told me, I don't want my children to grow up without grandparents the way I did. Put that guilt on us. So my husband and I moved to La Jolla, and guess what happened? They moved. They moved.
After all that Jewish guilt, they moved away.
All that guilt. And guess what? I told them to move. And my son-in-law got the Nobel Prize in Economics in 2003.
Wow, congratulations.
I told them, I'm fine, I'm a big girl, I'm a survivor, go.
That's incredible.
So, yeah, dependency breeds depression. You have to be very careful to have healthy dependency. And that's what I am really teaching, the grieving, the feeling, and the healing journey.
If I can go back for a minute, going back to when you were liberated, there is one chapter in your book which is so powerful, where you talk about you were amongst the dead. You couldn't even move. And you were liberated by the American troops, by the GI. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
You know, I was watching 60 Minutes a while ago, and there was a man who was liberating me in Gunskirchen. I'm in touch with him now. We have a lovely relationship.
Alan Moskin.
Alan Moskin is his name.
Wow.
And he was 17 when I was 17, and I told him, you know, if I would have met you, maybe I married you. He said, no, I don't know whether you're my type. He was not so delighted to hear that. But all I did, I heard somebody touching my hand. And I looked up and I saw big lips. And Oprah said, was he black? Because I've never seen a man with those lips. And I saw tears in the eyes and M&Ms in the hand. I just got a pack of M&Ms with my name on it and my picture on it from South Africa, from Jewish women who do challahs. And I remember my mother Friday making the challah. It was an art piece, the way, you know, it was amazing how my mother made that challah, that you could smell it all over the house. It's good to be Jewish because we truly can, hopefully, brilliant minds and warm, loving hearts.
That's so beautiful. It's you know, it's really so heartwarming to see how the memories, so many people, unfortunately, many of the memories from the wartime or before the war even, paralyzes them into a state where they cannot talk about it, not move forward. And yet it seems from everything that I've read in your book that you almost use this as a catalyst to do what you do today, to talk, to reach out, to inspire. How do you manage that?
Well, I am very addicted to freedom. And if you still hate and live in the past, you're still a prisoner, and I don't want to give an inch to Hitler. I want to have a life with joy and passion and love. So it's not something I do for anyone else. I do it to myself. So in my deathbed, I could feel so grateful that not only I survived, but I was able to use my experience as a way to guide people to be survivors and never a victim of anything or anyone or any circumstance. I don't have time for that. I want to have joy and passion and love. So I think self-love, again, is self-care. It's not narcissistic. And that's why I am going to speak as long as I live to young people, because they are the future. Young people are the ambassadors for peace. I am very, very totally committed to young people.
And we thank you for it, because we need people like you as the generation of Holocaust survivors becomes fewer and fewer. It's so important for us, my children and grandchildren, to be able to hear that message. Let me change topics for a moment. You know, so here you are, a Holocaust survivor, born in Hungary, and you survive the war. You go to Czechoslovakia, and then you end up in El Paso, Texas, which I still can't get my mind around. And how did you decide to go into mental health? That seems like such a change, something so insurmountable. What prompted you, or what motivated you to want to pursue a PhD and become a doctor?
I was a very curious child. And I think that curiosity helped me to make it through. That somehow there is something here that I will hopefully use and never give up. So I look at Auschwitz as an opportunity to discover my inner resources. And why did I get a PhD? Because my supervisor told me to get a PhD when I was 40. And I said, it's impossible, by the way. By the time if I get my PhD, I'll be 50. And my supervisor said, you'll be 50 anyway. I mean, that was the best thing I ever heard. Don't try to mess with the chronological age. It's your attitude, the way you think about it. And today I tell women, the best is yet to be. Write down what you want from a life mate, your soul mate. Don't fall in love, because falling in love is a chemical high, and lonely people get it from chocolate, and it's very temporary, okay?
And cheaper.
It can lead to a loving relationship, I'm not knocking it, but falling in love is not love. So that's why, I'm very, very careful of every word I'm saying, and tell women especially, you may need to go to school and become a lawyer, because with all the children, you have to know how to organize that children. Don't ask a child, why did you hit your brother? Because the child thinks, oh, mommy needs a reason, I'm gonna give her one. Because he hit me first. And then mom says, don't lie to me. And then I tell mom, if you don't want your child to lie, don't ask why. Why is a past-oriented word, a problem-oriented word.
How powerful.
What is in the present? What is in the present? And then how is in a future orientation. So I'm into the what and the how rather than why, because I don't know why, but I know that God made a decision for me, and I surrendered.
Now, when you went to get your PhD, did you consciously think about using your experiences in the Shoah, in the Holocaust, to help people, or was that something that came over time?
It came when I began to give a lecture, and I was working with battered wives. And what happens that the husband brainwashes his wife, that without him, she's nothing. And then the professor said about Dr. Eger, a survivor. And how many of you heard of Auschwitz? At the University of Texas, a few hands went up, and I decided, I don't know how to spell it to you, but I know that Hillel said something, if not now, when, and if I'm not going to do it, something like that.
Correct.
Can you help me with that? Yeah. And that's when I decided anybody can do lectures on battered wives, but I have to say what I lived. Anything I tell you, I lived it. So people say, well, time will help. No, the time doesn't do a thing. It's what you do with the time.
Traveling, I'm sure you speak to so many people, and now, it's a real concern that, the denial of the Holocaust the statistics are very, very disturbing. Many, many young people don't believe it happened. Recently here in the state of Texas, we had a law passed for education, the importance of educating students about the horrors and atrocities of the Holocaust. What do you say to that? How do we change the tide and make sure that something like this never happens again, in fact?
Well, we have to question authority rather than blindly adhering. And that is very important in a schoolroom, that we teach not what to think, but how to think. Because Plato said, you have to think of a lie, and it has to be a big one, and then you repeat it until people believe it. So our biggest enemy is ignorance. Question authority, question the teacher, and you find out that some people think of a lie, a big one, and then people follow that person and not questioning it. People are lazy, you know. Even in marriage, they settle. I tell people, don't settle. That's not the thing to do.
Right.
Write down all the things you would like from a life partner, and then you become that person.
Right. Have you ever personally experienced after the war anti-Semitism or anti-Israel bias in your talks in universities all over the world?
Well, when I came to America and I worked in a sweatshop, I got 7 cents to cutting off threads of boxer shorts, and I became the one who was the breadwinner because my husband ended up in a TB hospital. But when I went to the bathroom in 1949, after communists and after Nazis, I found a sign, colored. Imagine how I felt after Nazi Germany, communist Russia, and I see two bathrooms. One of them said colored. So I gathered the black women. I asked them to take me to a meeting, and I ended up with Dr. Martin Luther King in June or July in 1963, singing, "We shall overcome." So you see, love is not what you feel, is what you do. Anti-Semitism was when I was in Jewish school, and when I came out, and children were spitting at me and called me a Christ killer. Before Hitler. Hitler didn't do it alone. Unfortunately, we are experiencing in June, unfortunately, 6, I saw wearing a shirt, 6 million was not enough. How did you think I felt? Yes, it's very scary. It's alive and well. And many of the people who attacked the Capitol were part of the white supremacy.
Yeah.
And they're very proud that America has to be white again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, hatred still exists and all over.
Unfortunately, Hitler could have been changing America if there wouldn't be a little Jew called Albert Einstein who managed to come to America and change the history and World War II.
Let's change topics for a little bit. So right now, 2021, we're living through such a challenging time. So difficult. I'm also an educator. I'm the dean of a school. And we see the students, thank God, we have school, the kids are with masks. But I read just yesterday, 186 million children have not been in school this year. parents are stressed, people are stressed for their livelihood, the masks, we live in it seems in such a challenging time. What advice can you give us? How do we rise above it? How do we find positivity and hope in such a difficult and challenging time?
I ask people to look at their birth certificate. Does it have a guarantee? Does it have a certainty? No. There is a probability. If you turn this time, just like Anna Frank said, even though I'm looking outside and people are killed, and I still believe that people are basically good. It's time for the family to meet again and come up with the rules of the family. No punishment, only consequence. It can be not going back, but a new beginning. A new beginning, that there is no freedom without responsibility. It's anarchy, and children don't do what we say. They do what they see. You are the role model to your children. The way you treat the children's mother.
Yes, it's
And
very...
don't just, it's very important because children watch you, they see everything. Children are geniuses and they know how to get you, give them a little money on the side or, So if your child asks you, why is the moon blue? And you say automatically, because you're watching football game, go ask your mother. And mother has nobody to pass the buck to. So she becomes the disciplinarian. And he becomes, the nice guy, and she becomes the bitch. I talk very clearly, plain English, how this family is going to be growing up by respecting one another, and you cannot respect anyone unless you cannot love anyone unless you respect them.
In all the studies, there are so many studies about, stress and children and unfortunate, so many children are in such unfortunate circumstances and abuse going up. Do you think, as a psychologist of so many years, do you think people are waking up and making changes for the better during this COVID crisis and reconnecting with family?
Sometimes I like to talk about the victim's mentality and the survivor's mentality. So what happens that sometimes we look at victims as being weak and victimizers as being strong. So that's why part of the psyche will identify with the aggressor. And that's what we call the Stockholm Syndrome. Remember when her daughter joined the Symbionese Liberation Army? So I think it's very important to think about your thinking, because what you think, you create. So when you use I always, I never, these are absolutistic words. Just say, up till now I did this, and now I'm going to do something else. This is the time to regroup and redecide. There is no going back. This chapter hopefully will end, but the book has yet to be written.
Right.
So you see, you can use this time now. People ask me year after year to write, and I would say automatically, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. And then Philip Zimbardo said, you have a lot to say. I tell you why. Because the people who survived and are famous are all men. We need a female voice. And that did it for me.
So perhaps, as we get towards the end of our interview, maybe you can share with our listeners who are watching this program a couple of tips how to reconnect with their families in this time of COVID. Little things maybe that they can do to help strengthen their families and their connection and their loving relationships.
Get rid of two things. Don't ask, how are you? And don't say, why don't you? That's what mothers do. They ask questions and give advice. No more, how are you? It's the stupidest thing you can do. People call me selling something. How are you, ma'am? That's the end of that conversation. I don't do that. So be Jewish. Answer a question with a question. Someone says, how are you? How do you think I am? You know.
You have to maintain the positivity and the laughter.
Don't answer questions. Don't play the why because game. It's a waste of time.
So, the one...
How are you? Instead of how are you, you say, gee, it's good to see you. I missed you. That's what I tell my patients rather than how are you. It's the stupidest thing I used to do. And then I realized that I'm not asking what I need to be and asking. So I stopped asking, how are you? I rather say, I'm so happy to see you, because I provide an atmosphere that people can feel any feelings without the fear of being judged. There is no right feeling or wrong feeling. There is my feeling and your feeling.
That's so beautiful. Well, the one theme that, like they say, bounces off the pages of your books. I didn't know what you would be like because I had never met you, but so much positivity, so much happiness. And I think that that's such a beautiful message, because very often we get stuck in our own problems, in our own issues, and we walk around like we have the weight of the world on our shoulders. And you are doing such a wonderful job in teaching us that you have plenty to be angry about if you'd want to be angry. And yet, the positivity that you exude is so refreshing. It really is.
You have to go through the rage. You have to go through the rage. Because when you're constipated, you have to concentrate on a movement. And that's why my daughter calls it Edism. Are you revolving or are you evolving? And I think this is a very good time for time out, and have a new beginning. Don't go back. The past is gone, and there is one thing I cannot change, is the past.
Absolutely.
It's what I do.
Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of all of our guests here at the Chabad Center and our gala event in San Antonio. And I want to wish you a blessing, a bracha, of good health, of nachas, of happiness. And you should continue to tell your wonderful, inspiring story for many, many more years. And I hope that we will meet soon, and we won't say, how are you? We will say, it's so good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Eger, Dr. Eger, and Rabbi Maris, for this beautiful, beautiful interview and insight into life and happiness and joy and perspective. And thank you to all of you around the world who are watching, who joined us this evening. Thank you, and be safe, and Chag Sameach. Very happy and joyous Passover to all. Shalom. Lihitraot. Good evening.